And this year we are celebrating the premiere of Shchedryk in countries we didn't even think about. These are Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Cuba, and Mexico. This song rings true today as it did 100 years ago. Therefore, it triggers a profound catharsis.
And that is why cultural diplomacy is extremely relevant today.
Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Center, an NGO Euro-Atlantic course, and I'm your host, Myroslava Yaremkiv. Shchedryk sounded and continues to sound both in Ukrainian homes and at the best concert venues in the world. Shchedrivka, based on which the composer Mykola Leontovych created a legendary song, conquered the world. This song has become a symbol of Christmas. It is performed by the most famous musicians all over the planet. It sounds in movies and commercials. It is known as Carol of the Bells, which brings joy to all people who celebrate Christmas. In today's episode, we are going to talk about Shchedryk, a hit of Ukrainian diplomacy in Europe and even an instrument of the Ukrainian struggle for independence from Russia, and more specifically about its South American premiere 100 years ago. If you want to learn more about this subject, please continue watching this video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss our videos in the future. In 1919-1924, the outstanding Shchedryk made an international lobbying trip to 17 countries of Western Europe, North and South America, opening Ukraine to the world. This happened thanks to the foreign tours of the Ukrainian National Choir under the leadership of the outstanding Ukrainian conductor Oleksandr Koshyts. The choir was created at the initiative of Simon Petlura, the chairman of the Directorate of the Forces of the Ukrainian People's Republic, and was deployed abroad with the aim of countering Russian propaganda and promoting Ukrainian independence in Europe. More on that, please welcome founder of the Leontovich Institute, Tina Peresunko.
Our today's project is a celebration of the 100th anniversary of the South American premiere of Leontovich song. In 2019, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the European premiere of Shchedryk with a concert at the Philharmonic, when Leontovich's Swallow, as we remember, first of all flew to Europe, because the issue of international recognition of the proclaimed independence of the Ukrainian People's Republic was being decided in Paris then. So Shchedryk first flew to Paris, not to New York. Last year, it was the premiere of Shchedryk in New York, and this year we are celebrating the premiere of Shchedryk in countries we didn't even think about. These are Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Cuba, and Mexico, because after the premiere at Carnegie Hall, the choir toured those countries and gave hundreds of triumphant concerts there. It'll be an interesting concert. For the first time in 100 years, we are reproducing the repertoire of that grand premiere at Carnegie Hall we've been talking about for years. But until now, we've never asked what was performed on the stage of Carnegie Hall 100 years ago, apart from Shchedryk. We finally know that Shchedryk was performed there. By the way, it was not in 1921, as our press wrongly said for a very long time, but in 1922. I've brought a copy of the program of the repertoire of the premiere at Carnegie Hall. Shchedryk concluded the first part of that premiere at Carnegie Hall, but no one has ever heard what piece opened that concert, what other songs were performed at Carnegie Hall. For the first time, we'll make public new photo documents on the history of the tour at this exhibition. It'll even be an introduction to scientific circulation. The huge archive of the conductor Oleksandr Koshyts is now kept in Winnipeg, where he is buried. Last year, the Ukrainian Education and Culture Center digitized this archive at the expense of the Canadian government. I'm also eager to publish and comment on this fund in the future. The most interesting thing for me, and I believe for the history, for the popularization of the history of the tour, is more than 100 new photos of this choir's tour, especially with an emphasis on the South American tour. At the exhibition, we'll show new photos of them boating with the people of Barbados. So Shchedryk was also performed in the Caribbean. There are very interesting photos of a concert in Mexico City at the El Toreo Stadium where bullfights were held at the time. There was an interesting photographer in the choir who took all these photos. He took pictures of the bullfight. Now we seem to get involved in that history through these pictures. The exhibition also introduces new interesting documents and new interesting speakers, for example, in Brazil. There will be interesting reviews of prominent people, prominent intellectuals of that time. While preparing the exhibition, we identified a very interesting person in Brazil, Castro Pinto, after whom one of the Brazil's airports is named. He wrote a review, a long article under the title Alma Ukraine, The Soul of Ukraine, in 1923. He was a parliamentarian, one of the greatest orators in Brazil, governor of one of the provinces. We found his picture. Not we, I want to mention Vyacheslav Gorshkov, my partner, my colleague at the Leontovich Institute, with whom we are researching and restoring these persons and their portraits. So we'll show a lot of new things at the exhibition. I also worked with the funds of the Vernadsky Library and found new very interesting photos. First of all, of the Koshyts student choir, which presented Shchedryk at the Philharmonic in 1916. We've already published a new interesting photo of them in Christmas costumes at the exhibition. We'll see the choir that presented Shchedryk at the Philharmonic in 1916. There is a lot of work to do. I'm sure I'm dreaming, and dreams usually come true gradually. I think it'll be very interesting for the foreign audience, for the American audience, to see all these documents, all these photo documents. I try to work exclusively with archival primary sources, with authentic history, and show it in a popular way.
During 1923-1924, the Ukrainian choir performed in 115 cities of 36 American states, as well as in Brazil, Canada, Mexico, Argentina, Uruguay, and Cuba. Choristers even reached the island state of Trinidad and Tobago. They gained fame and recognition for Ukrainian culture everywhere. Shchedryk remained the hit of those concerts. Ukrainian concerts were attended by presidents and ministers, famous composers, and conductors. 40,000 listeners gathered at one of the performances in Mexico City alone. Artistic director and conductor of the Academic Choral Chapel of Ukrainian Radio, Yulia Tkach, will share her feelings when performing this timeless Ukrainian Christmas carol.
The Centenary Concert, Reconstruction Concert. For me, as an artist and choral conductor, this is very important, because it takes the academic art, and choral art in particular, to a completely different level. It unveils a new level of awareness to our public broadcasting and society in general. So thank you very much for this. As to the concert program, it is extremely interesting. When the name was chosen, I kept in touch with Tina, who suggested the name High Rождество. I didn't take it too well at first, because I didn't know the history of the song. When I got the song notation, we started working on it. I keep crying deep inside when I hear or perform this song. I cannot perform it without tears. I think that the audience will hear and feel it. This song rings true today as it did 100 years ago. Therefore, it triggers a profound catharsis. In my opinion, Oleksandr Koshyts was one of the first who presented a choir not only in the traditional sense, but also as a tool for reproducing instrumental music. And with those Latin American and American works, he transferred instrumental music expressiveness by means of the choir, which is always difficult, because the choir has its own specificity. I hope that everything will sound precisely in such an instrumental context. Oleksandr Koshyts invented such know-how. The repertoire is extremely varied, from tragedy and drama to Christmas. It also includes Vesnyanki and a full range of everything available in choral folk music.
Sympathy for Ukrainian folklore awakened, as Simon Petlura had hoped, interest in Ukraine itself. Many critics, with more than a few hundred reviews already printed, started to actively support the Ukrainians in the struggle for independence. Director General of the National Philharmonic of Ukraine, Mykola Shved, will talk more about this unprecedented case of promotion of Ukrainian statehood abroad.
It was a truly unique project for Ukrainian statehood. There were no such precedents in the world before. The Ukrainian independent state, that unfortunately was not recognized by the whole world, promoted itself as a state through the tour of the Ukrainian choir with authentic Ukrainian works and their high-quality musical arrangement. And this is an extremely instructive example for us today, because many countries hold the opinion that it is not so clear about current events in Ukraine, about the war unleashed against us by Russists. And that is why cultural diplomacy is extremely relevant today. The example of the project launched by Simon Petlura and implemented by Oleksandr Koshyts is absolutely unique. The National Philharmonic of Ukraine has been paying much attention to promoting Ukrainian music in general and conceptualizing its presentation. It is important that projects have a well-thought-out concept and be accompanied by interesting creative events, discussion platforms, exhibitions, etc., so that our audience can receive the maximum comprehensive information. We're currently working on expanding our audience. It's nice to see people visiting the Philharmonic for the first time. And I really want as many people as possible to get to know the fantastic artistic heritage promoted by Oleksandr Koshyts.
You've been watching a special project by Ukraine Media Center and Euro-Atlantic course dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian War, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!